Welcome to the Dr. Sarah Experience podcast show, where we talk with some of the most amazing beings who are currently creating and shaping today's culture. And I'm your host, Dr. Sarah. Barbara von Schmeling is the founder of Feminine Freedom, a combination of feminine embodiment, healing, and relationship guidance. Her mission is to empower women to find their strength by remaining in their feminine essence and by embracing the freedom and expressing who they are as a way to develop a better relationship with their bodies and their partners. She is a 7th degree black belt master and a 19-time world champion, which makes her unique in the teaching of the harmonies between the masculine and feminine essences. Her Feminine Freedom events were created to bring women back to their original selves, to unleash who they truly are, and to help them elevate one another. So without further ado, I would like to welcome Barbara to the show. Wow, I am so excited to have you on, Barbara.
Thank you. Me too. I'm happy to start wherever you want. The work that I do, I created this project called Feminine Freedom. And it became really, it's a passion of mine. And little by little, it became pretty much a business for me. As you know, I'm involved in martial arts. I've been doing martial arts for almost 29 years. So it has been a really long time. Wow. And a few years ago, I encountered this practice of feminine embodiment. And I just felt so whole and complete when I started that, that I felt that was something that I had been missing and I had no idea. So when I found that, it was almost like there was a piece of me that I wasn't accessing, and that became so real and vivid to me. So being in martial arts for so long, always having to be tough, to be, yes, disciplined, all those values were so incredible to make me the person that I am today, right? But I was missing that connection to my feminine energy. And when we talk about energy, we both have masculine and feminine energy. And I don't know if your audience is familiar with it, the feminine energy is the one who is nurturing, who actually receives love, the one who brings beauty to life and flow to life. And the masculine energy is the one that we have both energies in our bodies, right? So the masculine energy is the one who makes you be more assertive, more goal-oriented, more into achievement, more into being organized, structured. So all of that is masculine energy. So martial arts for me was a great way for me to develop that masculine energy in me, if that makes sense.
Yes, and completely.
Right. So when I found this other practice, I'm like, oh my goodness, I was missing all this. I really didn't have, I think, a space and a place to develop that. So the feminine energy also is related to creativity.
Yes.
Right? And sensuality, meaning not in a sexual way, but more in a way that we as females, we have more feminine energy usually as a core energy. So more heightened senses, I can say. So we can smell more things, or we can taste more things. We can see different colors, right? Because that is all also part of the brain that we have as a female. So yes. Being connected to those senses is part of the feminine energy as well. Anyway, so it's a beautiful thing to find that a harmony, right?
Well, first of all, I love that description. You really described it well. And if that's a part like that, you came to the awareness of like, wow, bringing that into your world, that there are probably parts of it there, but the parts that were missing, really, when you brought them in, what was that like? Or maybe share with us a little bit about how you did that, or when you did come across that space of the feminine energy and how that showed up for you. I'd love to hear.
So my husband and I, we've been going to Tony Robbins events for a long time now. And about 4 years ago, we went to a very specific event that he did that was for relationships. So he really believes on that polarity when it's about relationship. One person needs to be more connected to the masculine energy and the other person needs to be more connected to the feminine, so you can have polarity and you can have attraction. Right. So on that, it was a week retreat that we did with him, and he brought a few speakers and a few facilitators, and every day he would split the group, and men usually would go with this guy, and they would actually do martial arts to really bring on that protector energy from the men, right? And women would go with this woman, her name is Sheila Kelly, and we would go with her to really connect to the feminine energy. And then I remember the first day when he said what was happening, I was kind of upset because I've been doing martial arts for so long. I felt like I wanted to go and do martial arts. And then my husband said, well, baby, then just go with me and do martial arts. But then for a second, I had a feeling like, maybe I should try this other thing, right?
Yeah.
So I went with the ladies and I really had a great time. And for me, I was like, oh my goodness, this is so much fun. Because what she does, she's brilliant. What she does, she uses the body to activate the feminine energy. And then after a while, I decided to do some more deep retreats with her and went through some training, and I decided to become a teacher. So that was like the door for me to enter this world. And I did work with her, like I said, as a student, and then decided to go deeper and become a teacher. And when I did that, I'm like, this is so incredible. I want to learn this to teach other people, because I feel like so many of us are missing that, especially in this society now. And I'm sure I don't know if you're going to agree with me, but we've been told by everyone around us, not just by our parents, because I think I was raised in a house that had a lot of harmony. My mom was very into her feminine. My dad was into his masculine. And kind of course, we use both energies in different moments, right? So my mom also had her business, but she was always very caring, loving with us, nurturing. My dad was the main provider of the house, but at the same time, one of the things that I did with my dad was doing martial arts together. So we had that connection, right?
Yeah.
So I think my household growing up was very, very complete. Like my parents never told me, oh, you don't need a man, you have to work, you need to do this, you need to do it on your own. I never heard that kind of thing. But I know many girls now, they hear that. You gotta hustle, you have to make it happen. So all that makes you tap into the masculine energy, and you go out in the world and you want to make things happen, because we have this idea of success based on what the masculine energy can bring.
Yes.
It's almost like the masculine brings you the quantity of things that you have, and the feminine energy will bring you the quality of life.
Yeah. Right. And I think what you're acknowledging here is we can embrace both sides of it, and really being the whole being that you are, which is kind of the language I use. And we resonate very similarly, you and I speak from a little more space of living consciously in a way to embrace it all and be it all. And if you cut one side off, it's either going to charge up the other side or limit you from being your entire being, and that you're merging both sides in a way that people can receive it, is what I hear too. It's one thing for us to be it. It's another to be able to go into the world and be an invitation for people to join us with that. So I love how you're speaking in the sense of, and even today's world where we tend to, there's this interesting conquer and divide, or black and white to things, or one way or the other, the masculine then the feminine, rather than this coming together of, yeah,
absolutely. You're 100% right. And for so long, we have bif suppressing the feminine as an energy, right? Yes. Not just women. I have a very strong, I can say, I don't know if opinion, or I'm very passionate about embracing the feminine in a woman, because I understand that we all want to have equal rights, but we're not equal as humans, right? We're not, and that's what makes us special, all those different, right?
Yes.
And gifts that we have that makes us unique. We're pretty much missing that. We're putting that off to the side because we think we need to be equal as people, and we're not, right? So when I say, these girls have been growing up and hearing, you got to go and be as masculine as you can. But I'm not, and you're not. And now we're trying, and we're really, like I said, we hustle and we really try to make it happen. But then we're missing this part of us that is usually our core, right? And it's what's going to give you that fulfillment. And it's what's going to give you that bliss of just living life and being alive in that body, right?
Yes.
And when we tap too much into the masculine, we get, like, especially women, we are now exhausted, depleted, just tired. And you don't even know why. I'm like, oh my gosh, I I can't handle it, but I don't even know what to do, because you're missing that connection to your true core energy, right? And to your true self, really.
Yes. Well, I love that. And this language that we're referring to as energy, when we're looking at energy, there's a space that allows for it to come in a way that beyond our thinking and beyond our feeling and emotions. And when you're bringing in and talking of like the feminine energy, that's where it's not about, like you said, equal. It's about embracing it all and tapping into the energies as you require. Because from my awareness, especially those of us who resonate as energy beings, we're going to be the ones picking up on things beyond language, and words sometimes slow us down. So when we're being in this energy that you speak of with the feminine and then also the masculine, they don't have to fight to be equal. You can embrace them all and use them to live your life fully. So if you need to add a little bit of feminine energy into a space where you've been really producing a lot, or more like the linear construction of things.
I love that you said that.
Yeah, it helps us kind of, maybe balance isn't even the word either, but it helps us resonate with all of it and not have to fight the forces, so to speak.
Yes, and it's funny when you said linear, that is the first thing that came to my mind, is the way that the masculine body moves. Right? Because if you think of, now we're talking about the body, right?
Yeah.
If you think on the masculine body, that's how they move. They don't have this curve of movement that we have, right? And that's why teaching to access the feminine energy through the body is, for me, the most powerful way to do it, because you are actually embodying it. You're feeling it, right? And that comes with even like how we move our bodies, because another thing that happened throughout the history of humanity, we shut down the body as the feminine body. We shut it down, meaning you cannot move this way, right? You shouldn't move this way. Oh my goodness, you cannot look like this. This is how you need to look. So we have so many conditionings that we've been through on how we need to act, how we need to move, how we need to talk, how we need to express, that we are pretty much shutting down the natural and organic and primal way of the feminine body to express. So when we move in the way that we're supposed to move, when we do things the way that body is supposed to do, that pretty much awakens that primal language of the body and awakens that energy.
Wow. I love that. And I know you are, and maybe this is a perfect place to segue a little bit into this amazing creation of it. You've titled it The Feminine Freedom, and everything you're being with that. Can you speak? I'm assuming it involves the body, the being, and all the rest. And I noticed even language of empowerment and healing. I would love to have you share a little bit more with us about that in this moment, Reed's Light.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So what I do now, I have a few people that I work privately with. It's a very small select group, but I also do events, and I do it. I'm in the feminine, so I do it whenever I feel. I don't have every 2 months or every month. No, I don't do that. I just do it whenever I feel like it. I just did one a few weeks ago here in Orlando. It was beautiful. So we're creating something very, very extraordinary. So I'm very excited about that. Yeah, it's going to be amazing. Maybe you can come.
Oh, I wonder.
Yeah. So if you think on us as a whole, right, we have the body, we have the mind, we have emotions, we have our spirits, right? So if you think mentally, physically, emotionally, and spiritually, we can say, when we actually connect to the body to a level of leaving the brain, the thoughts out.
Yeah.
Right. Because usually I love my brain. I think it's incredible, but it's also made to make me survive. So anytime that I'm doing something that is different, it's going to go like, wait a second, why are you doing this? Or it's going to try to hold me back. Or if I'm trying something new, or if I'm going into a space of the unknown, maybe it's going to try to pull me back from it, right? And I see that happening a lot with women when they first encounter. Many of them, they go to their head and they allow the head to control it. So what we want to come to the body. We want to bring that awareness to the body, to the present moment, to parts of your body that maybe you're not even aware of how that part likes to move or how that part of your body likes to be touched, right? And I'm talking about you knowing your body now and being present in that full space of your body. So you can also, as you move, you're going to trigger emotions, and emotions that have been stuck to the body are going to start to move and flow through. And that those emotions, everything is energy, right? So those emotions might come out. So we have women who have a major healing experience when they come to these, because those emotions that have been stuck, or those emotions that have been shoveled to the side. Okay, no, you cannot cry. You cannot laugh that loud. You shouldn't be mad. So all that stays in the body. And when you move, those things come out. And
it sounds like it starts releasing and allows it to almost, release is a good space to identify it. And the mind, how the mind wants to lock it into the body too. Our minds can be really, like you said, kind of stuck in the why, or the linear construct of what we're taught to do in this reality. And as the movement starts, it sounds like it allows the person to be present, a conscious space for this just to flow through and release and be more of who they're desiring to be, it sounds like.
Right, yes. And not only who they desire to be, but who they really are in truth.
So, Barbara, you were mentioning this space of like where our minds go into the question of why and the resistance, which a lot of times then locks us in to our body with the emotions that limit people and want to resist us from being able just to be in the flow. And I know for me, I do a lot of work of clearing thought, feelings, and emotions because they're limitations. So I can see, as you were talking about the body movement, it's bringing back a being to their body and movement and conscious space of the person they desire to be, the person they have yet to be, or even the person they are. So it sounds amazing. And feel free to say more about now the body piece.
Yes. So everything that we do, actually, they say that 95% of the things that we do every day, we do them because we have been programmed to do them.
Yes.
Right? Almost like your computer, and now you're programmed to do all this. And then every time that you're going to do something different, your brain automatically is going to go like, wait a second, that's new. And I don't know where that's going. So hold on. Right. So for many women, when they first encounter this, they go to their head and they go like, okay, no, this is not for me. I can't do this because it's something new. But at the same time, it's not really new. It's almost like a reminder of how it's supposed to be. Yes. So if you think that, I was going to say, I speak Portuguese, right? That's my native language. Yeah. And let's say I have a 7-year-old daughter and I speak Portuguese to her. But let's say now that she's 7 or 8, I will stop speaking Portuguese and I only speak English, right? And then now when she's 30, 35, 40 even, I go and I say, okay, now speak Portuguese. She will have probably no idea how to speak, right? Because she hasn't done it for the past 30 years. So this also happened to the body. When we were young, we were free in how we moved. Think about a baby. There's no restriction how the baby moves. No one tells the baby how they should move, right? Yeah. So free in movement. And then we start growing up. We're 3, we're 4, we're 5, we're still free. We move, we dance, we do whatever we want with our bodies. But then when we start growing up, there are restrictions, right? No, you shouldn't sit like this. You have to sit this way. You should not walk this way. You have to walk this way. You shouldn't move this way, or you shouldn't talk this way.
All these supposed to's. Yeah.
Yeah. Because yes, there's a society that we live in and there are some rules, but there are also some, it varies, I think, from family to family. There's a lot of maybe religion that puts restrictions on how people should behave, right? Yes. So all of that becomes a conditioning and becomes a programming, right? Mm-hmm. And we get to be 30, 35, 40, or whatever age we are, and we have no idea how our bodies are supposed to move. We have no idea what our bodies like, right? How you like to be touched, what kind of scent you like, or what kind of taste you like. You just do things automatically because that's what you've been programmed to do.
Yes.
So there's a lack of knowledge of the body, right?
It's
And
almost like an algorithm that our brains are set up on. And once it's in that algorithm, we need an algorithm interrupt in order to change it, or bringing in like these different possibilities if we're not living like a conscious space. So that mind loves to go into this kind of like automatic way of being. It's comfortable for our minds to do that.
It is. It's comfortable. And so now it's almost like you have to unprogram that body and reprogram that body. It's like when the whole pandemic started and I had to homeschool my daughter.
Yes.
Right? So she was in regular school. And then one day I was like, okay, now you have to homeschool your child. And I know 99% of all the parents in the world are going crazy.
Yes.
Right? Because now I have to homeschool this kid. And how do I do it? So I remember I called a friend of mine and I said, Dorothy, help me. Like, because she homeschools her 3 kids. And I said, I'm going crazy here with Annabella. I don't know how to do it. And she said, Barbara, it's impossible for you to take her from regular school and put her straight into homeschooling. When we do that, we go through a process of unschooling. You need to be out of school, almost like not learn and not be in that conditioning, right? And then after that, we will start to condition them to homeschool. And then she said, so what I can tell you now, just maybe choose one thing that matters and everything else, don't stress about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to do that. So I feel like it's kind of the same way. We need to unprogram. You have to be almost like, this is you now without all that. So it's almost like you peel all those layers of conditioning, right? And
almost
now,
like a blank canvas, or a space where now it's just cleared the history, and now it's about bringing in this new possibility and choosing it. Like a huge piece of this then that interrupts this algorithm too in our mind is choice and possibilities, awareness, allowance, and these things that we're kind of speaking of. You're speaking of it and being it too as we're even talking. So it's fun how this works.
Yeah, it's exactly. I love what you said. It's like, okay, now I need to like clear this canvas and start over, right? Yeah. And it's a very hard thing to do because that's how you've been your whole life. And now what? You can just change it. It doesn't happen in one day. It doesn't happen in a weekend. It happens with that constant cultivation of those new habits, right?
Yes.
And new ways of doing things, new ways to experience things. And that's something that when I teach, okay, I teach this, but now how do you take this home, right? How do you continue to do that on your own? Because when you go back and do things on your own, many times we just don't do it. Yeah. We know we have to do it. It's almost like when you go to the gym and you have a trainer, you know what you have to do, but now you go on your own, you're like, what do I do? And then you're on your phone, or you're like, taking it easy. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, this is where I sense that word empowerment comes in, of like empowering people to know that they know, or that they can access that choice now and it's available, but it is also like a practice of something that has to be done and chosen, and like more than once. It's not just a one time I'm choosing it done kind of thing. It's choice after choice after choice to choose what you're speaking of, and actually bringing the integration in. And
absolutely. And one of the first steps I feel is to drop the judgment.
Yes, huge.
When we go in with judgment, there's no way that there's going to be any progress. We're not going to allow anything to come in, because if we already have, okay, this is supposed to be this way, and if you see other people doing it differently, or if you see yourself trying to do it differently, there's going to be a judgment, right?
Yeah. And then that cuts you off from receiving. And that's what you're speaking of. It's like it almost, the moment the mind wants to judge it, it wants to limit.
Yes, absolutely. And especially with working with women, when we work together, we create such a connection, and it's such a strong sisterhood, I can say we see beauty on every type of body, on every type of movement. So it elevates everyone together, right? So when you come in, okay, you leave the judgment out the door, come in and just allow yourself to be and celebrate how other people are, because like we said in the beginning, we're all different, right? So something that might feel really good for you, it's not what I like, but hey, you like it, you go ahead and be yourself, and I will celebrate that, right?
Oh, I love that. It's like a coming and being in a space of seeing each other clearly, and allowance of ourselves and others, and that's just so lovely.
Yes, because we're also being taught on how things should be, and we judge ourselves, we judge others, right? We expect us to look a certain way, and we criticize people when they don't look that way as well, right?
Yes.
And when one thing that I noticed, when we are so secure with who we are and how we look, have that love, that appreciation for your body, yourself, your emotions, you allow them to flow, you embrace them, all that I think just expands your love for other people and how you see other people as well, right? So one thing that many of my students they see in their journey is how secure they get to be in their own skin, right? To be able to find then now beauty on everyone else. So women who are maybe jealous now finding that they are enough and they are perfect the way they are. They're not going to be jealous of their husbands, for example, or their partners, because they're like, hey, I am me and he loves me. So now I can see beauty. Yeah, that is a beautiful woman. Yeah, she has a great body, but I don't feel threatened by it because I'm in a space of just loving who I am as I am, if that makes sense.
It makes total sense. And what I love about this conversation as you're speaking, I'm seeing that this is where we started our conversation with the masculine, feminine, not just male, female, but those differences in energies of embracing our own space of being along with others with their space of being, that there's no conflict in that. There's space of connection and ways to be like this gift of allowance, which a lot of times can be even greater than love, in that love can have judgment attached. Like, if you love me, you would, or the love, I love you so much, why don't you love me kind of energy, which is so linear human, versus this space of gratitude and allowance and allowing ourselves to be who we be and others to be, and just celebrate in that. And I sense that's a cool word of celebrating or contributing to each other in that space. So I love how this is all kind of moving in different directions here.
Yeah. And you mentioned love. Everyone loves differently.
Yeah.
And we all show love differently, right? I can show love to you in a way that you don't even recognize it, because that's not how you love. So it's
yes.
Right. So if we go into relationship, the way, let's say my husband and I love to touch him. That's one of the ways that I show him love. Or I just like being with him, just being in his company. Like for me, I want to drive with him. Like I try to like do whatever I can to like, can we just drive together? What time are you coming back? So because I want to be with him, right?
Yes.
And for him, he tells me, oh my gosh, you're beautiful, I love it. Like he's so verbal and I'm not. So we do have sometimes like he comes like, can you just tell me something I want to hear? And I'm like, what does he want to hear? Because I'm the way I show my love, it's by hugging and touching and kissing him, right? It's like my dad one time, it became a joke because I thought, oh my goodness, I never heard my dad saying I love you. He never told me he loves me, right? And I was talking to my husband and I said, and maybe I never told him either. Like my mom, we say it all the time. And then I went to my dad one time and I was like, Dad, I was leaving, they live in Brazil, and I was leaving. I was at the airport and I hugged him and I said, I love you. And he looked at me and he went like this on my arm. And that's it. I'm like,
oh my goodness.
But that is how he loves me.
That's
right?
his loving, space of loving, which is like the space of loving you're speaking of, and everyone loves differently within that space. And I love that you are seeing how other people show you love in the space of loving, rather than being into, the limitation of it, because it's different than how you do it. So that's so cool. I love that description. This word love is
so
so
he
good
just
to throw
cracked my
around.
arm, and it was so funny.
Oh.
And it was his birthday last week, and I posted something on my Instagram about him, and then he wrote me, he texted me, he was so cute, and he said, "Oh, thank you for the post. That was really nice." And I told him on the post that I love him, right? And then he wrote it. I think that was the first time. He said, "I love you too." And I was like, "Oh,
Oh.
like a miracle."
Oh, he's moving into your space and speaking your language, and now he's onto that as well.
Yeah,
Oh,
yes, that was
beautiful.
kind of cool. But
It
the
also
way
shows
that,
persistence pays off. No.
yeah, right. But also, if I don't know how I like to be loved and how I receive love, how can I even ask for it? Like
That's
I said,
the
my husband
awareness
did
piece.
that.
Like, and when you have so much awareness around it without the judgment, oh,
Yeah.
it's just like, okay, what would it take for this now to come in, or for this to change or be different? When we're in that space of being, which is what you're talking about with the being and body without the mind involved, there's so many more possibilities, and there's so many things that are available that if we get out of our own way of it, wow. And that's, whew, I'm getting chills everywhere, because that's what I sense you're bringing to the world with what you're, the invitation with these women. And I'm sure, like, does it also include men, or is it just kind of, it just depends, like, on what you're choosing and doing at any given moment?
So I can say that all the people that I work with are women.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
When I took workshops before, actually, I had a couple times we had a man in the space. It was a gay man, so for him that was his core energy, right? So to honor that as well, I think it's important, because I remember he became one of my best friends after that. Because
Oh.
he came in and he said that for 2 days he was with the guys and he was feeling like that was not his place. So he asked if he could come with the ladies, and he
Love
ended
it.
up my partner, and it was just beautiful, right? And we became really close after that. And like I said, it's an energy thing. It's not a gender thing, right?
Yes.
So most of like I said, all of the people that I had the pleasure to actually teach and work with, they are women. Except one time I had a friend in Brazil that he's gay as well, when I did a virtual class and he joined.
Oh, that's
Fun.
nice.
Yes, I mean, as it's energy, we all have both, but I feel many women right now, they are in need of this, because we're tapping so much into the masculine energy,
Yeah.
and that sometimes brings a lot of suffering, because that's not really our core. And many times we even get sick from it. Like people
Sure.
develop, right? They
The
develop
body, yeah, if
illness.
it doesn't have a space to be honored in the truth of whatever that is, and we just happen to put language to it, it can start, it's that dis-ease. It starts killing off our cells and our body, and then in resistance to it, when we're really meant to, again, be in the flow and the ease of life and living. It's not meant to be this hard and difficult. It's meant to be ease. And you're almost, as I'm saying this, you're bringing beings and women in this case back to ease of who they be and embracing it all. It's weird. Probably, have you noticed that for you too? Like almost life gets easier and more fun. And I say the side effect, can also be joy and too much laughter.
Yes. Oh, 100%. There's this, like I said, this bliss of just being in your body and being alive, because there's that connection to your true self, right?
Yes. And gain the dis-ease out of the way by where the body stores it. And have you noticed that too? Like with these different seminars, or even when you notice women's bodies start to embrace the space, what's your awareness on it?
Yeah, so I'll give you an example. Last March, I hosted a workshop and she attended, and we did a drill and pretty much to make peace with one part of our bodies that maybe we had some judgment, or we had some shame, or we blame, or we don't like. So we did a little activity around that. And then a few months ago, she came and she told me, she said, "Oh my gosh, after that day, I just accepted my body in a way. And I just noticed that I haven't been to the hospital since then."
Wow.
Right? Because before, she is putting all the negative energy into that part of her body, right? And then
Yeah.
now she's like, oh my goodness, I love it. It gave me 2 babies. So she was able to change the language that she used towards her own body, right?
Wow.
And she said, I haven't had any, she used to have like ulcers and all that kind of stuff. So now she's free of that just because her brain is free of that judgment that she was putting in, that energy that was a bad energy going to her body. Now it's not there anymore.
Wow. And what I love in the word that you use, like when you were speaking of what she was talking about, her body, like to be grateful for what it provided her, like just the acknowledge of it and treating it kindly. I sense this reality in particular sets us up to be in a space where we create havoc, even with bodies, or judgment on bodies, or critiquing, analyzing, and people doing that with others. And one thing I'm aware of with judgment and other people's judgment, if you can look at it, it's just an interesting point of view and thank them for their judgment. It tends to diffuse the energy around it rather than locking it in the body too. So it's judgment of self, judgment of other, but the judgment of self can be one of the number one darkest energies I sense that we can be in.
Yes, you're right. And usually that starts after we have experienced judgment from other people, not just people, but think about things that you see even on social media. You see, oh my goodness, this person, this body, she has this perfect body. How about me? But we don't really see that. Yeah, there is some lighting going on, maybe some filters. Even the position that your body is in that photo. I can be sitting here, and if I slouch a little, my belly is going to be different than if I just sit up straight, right? So what we see, like coming back to that conditioning, how I need to look, right? And now I'm not. So then I start to judge my own body. Because I remember with my daughter, she was like 4 years old one time, and it was actually super cute because we went to how's it called, Sephora. And I always talk to her about just honoring her body, doing what feels good to her body. And we had conversations of body and soul and all that. And she was so cute. We went to Sephora, and she wanted to, she asked if she could buy some makeup. And I was like, sure, fine, a couple things. So she got some blush, some eyeshadow. And then we got to the car, and she's going like to town on that blush, right? She's putting, like, there's no tomorrow. She's like pink on her cheeks. And I'm driving. I was like, Nabella, baby, you don't think that's enough? And she was like, nope. If my body likes it, my soul likes it. And I was like, you're right. Because the body, if you are happy with how the body feels, you're going to be light up as a soul, right?
Yes.
This is great. So because this is what I try to teach her. Okay, it feels good for you. It doesn't matter if other people think it's not. It doesn't matter even how it looks. If it feels right for you, why not? Why not honoring what your body likes? Like, yeah.
Yes.
Like even, okay, you're hungry. Yeah, go. You want to go to the bathroom? Go to the bathroom. Like there are things that we just hold back that we don't have to hold back.
Well, and that's this conscious space of living when we're in that space of it, and she's just being it, like in the moment of just flow and the ease of it, and natural. She's natural. It's just so cute. Yeah. When we're talking about the external and more of what is expected of us, or it's more what I call the linear lower harmonics, and then we have the higher harmonics, which is more of this perceiving of things, awareness of things, the knowing, receiving. Like it's a different vibration when you're in the higher space of just awareness and consciousness versus the lower, which is more of an outside in to have to live up or live down to, rather than, oh, what do I know? What works here for me? Like accessing ourselves and asking it. And your daughter, it sounds like she's a natural. And at 7 years old, it's like perfect. But that's that part we have to kind of bring back. And I sense that's what you're speaking with everything you're doing too, is this space of like, we know that we know. We have to start communicating with ourselves and asking ourselves and being in tune to these parts that were so much before dense to follow the rules according to this reality, rather than your own knowing and being and perceiving of things. And that's a whole nother world that's so much lovelier and fun to be in.
Yeah, and you said she's a natural. We were all naturals until right
past then, when our brain starts delineating, when we learn right and wrong of things.
Yeah, because we were all, I mean, when we were born, we were like a wild animal. But then
Yeah.
we had to be conditioned and domesticated. I like to even say that because, right? Because now we live in a society that you have to behave a certain way and do certain things, but sometimes it goes overboard, I think, right? And there's
Yeah.
too much conditioning, too much restriction that now
Yes.
you're not free to be yourself at all. And you just become numb to whatever is happening around you even.
Yeah, and I'm aware of with some of the work I am doing and individually and more of just showing up to the world social media wise, it's about getting clear of those things, but also then embracing being the difference, being the and when you start doing that, it starts opening up doors where these other energies aren't showing up as much because you're not engaging in them or you're not in the limitation of it. So you don't have to deal with the people who are still functioning in that space, because there are many people, I like to call them humans, are functioning from those spaces, whereas those of us who, no, that's not going to work for us, we're going to do it this way, which is so much more than those people tend to clear out of your life too, that aren't going to resonate if you choose, to be the difference. Because the ones that don't care to join you, bye-bye.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it's true, because then now they don't understand what this kind of life that you're living, right?
Yes.
So there's going to be a separation, there's going to be a distance, and unless and I'm going to say this, unless they choose to come along and discover this depth of living, right? And not just that shallow, you're not going to be able to even interact anymore. I have friends that once I started doing, I mean, we do a lot of work in ourselves. And once I started all that, I remember like I would go out with some people that before I would go out, I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't like, there's no conversation. There's no depth to conversation.
Yes.
Because now I'm in a different space with myself. And then I remember it was one day I met this girl and she's talking to me and she's so in tune with herself. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, I feel like we speak the same language. This is incredible.
Yes. Oh my God. I love that. And I would say probably even for our audience, that this is possible. Like sometimes when you're doing this intense work, in the midst of it, it's like can be almost that moment where you may want to opt out, but there's this other side to it. Once you're willing to continue to do the practice, continue to be it and choose it, this is what ends up coming through with it, rather than being stuck in those things that have been held in the body the way you've described it. So there is almost a sense it's worth it. Like never give in, never quit, never stop.
Yes. And one thing that I experience with the ladies that I work with, it's like, okay, how about my partner? He's not doing any work. He's not doing anything, right?
Yes.
And usually what I say, and I witness this, and I have been witnessing, when a woman, so let's say, for example, if I am very connected to my masculine energy, yes, there's always going to be, we're going to butt heads. We're not going to be in an agreement, right? So there's going to be always friction. So
Yes.
when a woman comes, take a step back and start to connect back to the feminine, usually, and that's usually what happens, if their counterpart is a masculine man or a partner, that person will either go like, oh shit, I cannot handle this, and then that's not the right person for you. Like you said, okay, then goodbye, and I move on from this. Or that person will actually rise up.
Yes.
Better himself. So now, because if you think on the masculine and the feminine, like we talked in the beginning, the feminine is the one who flows, right? And I heard this analogy before, and it makes so much sense to me. The feminine is like the river. It's never the same. It flows. It's moving, right?
Yes.
And the masculine is what it holds that container for that river, so it can beat the riverbanks or the riverbed, and it's going to keep that structure for the feminine the feminine to be able to flow. So looking at my husband and I, when I started this journey, what happened to him was beautiful. He's like, oh my goodness, now I have this woman that she became so free in who she is, that I need to be a better man myself so I can protect this beauty now, right?
Yeah. The invitation for him to join you and come in, and you were you were a contribution to him as a result of that too, I hear. Wow.
Yeah, and he responded beautifully to it, because then he started being even more healthy in his masculine of wanting to protect me and hold the space for me to be who I am, right? Because and then now what happens? I feel safe. Oh my goodness. Now I can be even more of what I am. And he's gonna go like, okay, now I gotta be even more. So we play that
Like
game
this.
of just elevating each other, and we grow together, right?
Beautiful.
So if his response was different, maybe I would be like, oh my goodness, this guy is not the guy for me. And unfortunately, now what do? I have two choices. Either I go back to be small and live that unfulfilled myself that I was, or
Yeah.
I just go and be myself, and then he's gonna either step up or not. And
Yeah.
and,
And
and then later it becomes a choice. But luckily he was amazing.
he's stepping up and joining you, and you guys are creating it together. And I love this kind of like even the ebb and flow of that, of how that is described. It's so wow.
Yes,
Beautiful.
what happened was really beautiful, because I love him so much. I'm like, I don't want to be without him, but
Yeah.
at the same time, I want to be free to be myself, right?
Well, and this is kind of like where we can hold space for others and have each other's back in the way that we can, in our own way. And like you embracing him in a way that allows him to be the greater being he is, and he's being that for you, and doing it in the different ways that you're doing it. It's like, that's how it is. That's conscious living, and it's bound to keep moving, keep growing, rather than getting stuck in when we conclude something, we limit ourselves. And that is that rigid way of thinking versus, okay, now what? What else is possible? Like, how does it get any better than this? Those are the questions I like, but the universe kind of likes those questions too.
Yeah, absolutely. And then also, when I am free, I allow him to be himself as well, right?
Yes.
Because no one likes to be controlled. No one wants to be told what to do. No one wants to be criticized on how they act.
Yeah.
So we now live this life of, oh my goodness, we enjoy each other so much because we are just ourselves. There's no masks, no layer, no armor that we're wearing. This is just, there's so much vulnerability of us just being who we are.
Yes.
And that vulnerability is so important, because it's very scary to just be vulnerable. And I hear that from so many people, and it is, because now you're opening yourself up and now you can get hurt, right? But
yeah,
when that other person, instead of hurting you, just embrace you and just love you, it's the best feeling, because now you're yourself and you're being loved for who you are.
Yes. Beautiful way of saying it. It's that allowance, space of allowance. And when you're saying vulnerability, I even have an awareness of a little different point of view on vulnerability. And basically just this awareness, it's about like barriers down, and vulnerable meaning there's nothing to hit up against. So there's just a space to be whatever it is without making it significant or making it a separation. It's just, this is what's showing up for me, and this is the way I'm clearing it, or in all these different ways. These are like clearing tools that you speak of, even with the body releasing it. I use verbal ones and different things too. It's just like, and that's what's so amazing. It's like all these contribute to continuing to just be, which sounds so simple, but it's all these things like to get in the way of that. And
there's a lot in the way of it. Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm just so grateful for you and how you're showing up in the world and what you're bringing to the women, and just what an invitation. And it's amazing that when we're willing to be this and speak it in a way that people can receive it, where it can go. And is there anything else that you're desiring to create, or that's coming out, or anything that your next adventure? I don't know. It's kind of a fun question.
Yeah. So the next thing that I'm doing is this retreat, and it's going to be 3 days. Yeah. And I'm doing it with a friend of mine that when I first met her, she completely changed the way that I even perceive women, I can say. So she is, remember when I told you that back in that event that I went, that was my first encounter. So they brought her in as one of the teachers, right? And when she came in, first I thought, okay, this woman, she's incredible. And she gave a speech. She explained a little bit what we're going to do. And in my mind, I'm like, okay, we're going to go and learn to be sexy and have fun, right? And then she, little by little, brought different women, and they were moving their bodies, right? Almost like dancing, but it's not like a performance. There's not a choreography. It's just each one of them were moving to the integrity of their own bodies, right? So it was almost like a moving meditation that they were doing in front of us. So she brought this one girl, and the girl was beautiful, super cute and all that. And then the second person who came in was this friend of mine, Jen. And she's over 200 pounds. She's very curvy. She has this long, beautiful red hair. But when she first came in, because of my conditioning, right, I was like, wait a second, what just happened? I was very confused because she did not fit into that mold that I had in my mind of being skinny and cute, right, and sexy. So when she came in, I was like, whoa, what just happened? And then she started moving her body in such a beautiful way that I was like, oh my God, like I could feel it. I had like waves of heat in my body because I could like, I cannot even explain. She was one of the sexiest, most beautiful, sensual beings I've ever seen. And that blew me away because I'm like, she just owned her body to a level that I've never seen before.
Wow.
Right? And she can do that. This is like, it's like a jewel. Like every woman needs to know this because we are so critical of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
And now looking at this woman just owning her curves in such beauty and grace, I'm like, oh my gosh, how did she get there, right? So I was like fascinated. And then later we became friends, and I did so many other events that she was teaching, and I just love her to death. And then we decided to host this one together, and it's going to be phenomenal. I'm super, super excited.
Wow. And I love the creative energy you have in this space of just going with what reads light for you, and then you're going to choose it and then on to the next. It's really so lovely to see, and wow, very exciting.
Yeah, so I'm very excited about that. And we're calling the Wild and Free retreat. And what we want to do is really just peel back all those layers of conditioning so we can fully live in the body and in the mindset, I can say, that we're supposed to be, because there's nothing better than to be free. And we were talking the other day, and she said, I love wild and free because I can be a wild animal and I can be in a zoo. She said, so just that I want to be free. That is what we want. We want to, yes, that is the wild state of being, which is the natural state of being, that primal state of being, right?
Yes.
Now, how do we reclaim that and also become free of all those conditionings and judgments, right?
Thank you so much for joining us today on the Dr. Sarah Experience. I'm just so grateful and so grateful that you're here. And I would love to have you come back on at some point, and where I call like play again here.
Yeah, let's do it. Whenever you want, I'll be back.
Fantastic. And is there anything else just in closing that you would like to say or go with?
No, just really gratitude for allowing me to come and share my views and share what I've learned through this journey, because it has been very transformational for me, and I would love for everyone to experience it. And it's a gift that we all have, and it's in there somewhere for most of us, and we haven't unwrapped it yet. So it's powerful.
Amazing. And I'm going to make sure for our audience that your social media links are included here, and just way people can reach you. So we'll make sure we include that all in this link too. So, thank you, Barbara, and to be continued.
Yes, it was a real pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you for being with us today. And be sure to join us next time for more conversations and insights into some of your favorite influencers. Now, don't forget to join me, Dr. Sarah, anywhere I'm on social media. And always, always, always remember that I have your back.